Mr. Femino is a United States Marine. That famous picture that everyone reflects to about the guys pushing up the flag at Iwo Jima, Pat was present when that occurred. He's going to tell you about his military service. He's going to tell you a little bit about what it was like to be at Iwo Jima. There are not many Iwo Jima survivors left, Pat, so we're happy that you're here. This is his second year in the high school. He's probably been 5 or 6 times at the middle school. So I'll turn the floor over to Pat, and you can tell him wherever you want, Pat, where you started, a boot camp, whatever the way. We love to hear your presentation. All right. Yeah, you always do, Pat.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Pat Femino. I was a private first class in the Marine Corps. Now, you remember 1941, what happened? Say again?
We joined in the Second World War.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor, right? That was where we got involved with the attack on Pearl Harbor that wiped out about 2/3 of our Navy that was based there in Hawaii. It was a sneak attack, and it was a very strong blow from the Japanese country. Now, after that attack, the Japanese Hawaii's out here, right?
Correct.
Pearl Harbor was out here, and then the Japanese, when they struck that, they went back to Japan. Actually, they didn't continue, because they continued, they could have really invaded the United States and our defenses. So after we were officially in the war, we started coming back. All the islands down here, there was Guadalcanal, the Marianas, the Marshall Islands, and Guam, Saipan, Tinian, Pelham, all those islands, they're all taken by the Japanese. And the Marines in the United States, they had to take these islands back one by one. And what they learned from Guadalcanal, they passed on to Guam. What they learned in Guam, they would pass on to Saipan to the end. We had no idea how to fight the Japanese, so we had to learn. And it was costly, very expensive with lives, equipment. So then, after we got to the Guam, Saipan, Tinian, and the Weetat, all those islands were secured and in American hands. They used it as a staging area for the push up to Tokyo. But on the way to Tokyo was a very serious problem. Iwo Jima was a speck of volcanic ash. It was an island. That's how big it was. Iwo Jima, well, the town of Johnston is 7 times larger than Iwo Jima. To give you an idea, the island was 5 miles long and 2.5 miles wide. It was shaped like a pork chop. On this island, there was a dormant volcano called Mount Suribachi. It was infested with gun emplacements, machine gun nests, tunnels, and the Japanese were all embedded in there. Thanks to the Navy and the Air Corps, They bombed that and knocked out many of the gun emplacements that made it pretty good. I mean, it made it more accessible for the troops coming up the mountain. Now, the gun emplacements that were here, and all the gun emplacements we had here, they had this, the beaches all pinpointed. They could spot any part of the landing that they wanted. Now, General Karabayashi, the general in charge of the operation for the defense of the island, we were building beach defenses. When he got there, he stopped it. He took the beach defenses away. His theory was, and strategy, was let the Marines land. And they flooded this whole area. By 12 o'clock, there was 30,000 Marines on the island, plus equipment, tanks, trucks, and any kind of recons, and any kind of equipment that would come out of the island and supplies that the Marines needed. After the island, this area here was cluttered, they opened up. They hadn't fired a shot before that. When it was cluttered and the general was satisfied, he opened fire. From that point on, it was a Turkish. We were very vulnerable. There was no place to take cover. The only places you could get were in the bomb craters that the American Air Force, when they bombed, or when the Navy guns would shell and bombard, it would make craters. And that was the only protection we had. And going up the beach to the summit, to the high point, was always very loose volcanic ash. It made the traveling very, very difficult and made us more vulnerable to open fire.
What was the weather like, Pat?
When we landed, there was a small rain, warm, and it was a sulfur island. This island here, they used to mine sulfur, so we had tunnels. And when the Japanese took over, they modified the tunnels, they added more tunnels, they put in gun emplacements, machine gun nests, anti-aircraft pom-poms, and where's that picture?
Which one, Dad?
The gun emplacements.
Gun emplacements.
Okay. You see this? These dots here, they represent gun emplacements back and forth across the island. There was a total of 11 miles of gun emplacements. And that's what we had to fight. That's what we had to compete with. And we had to take one at a time, one road at a time. And it was very, very difficult. I want you to know the Japanese soldiers were very tenacious. They were fighters who loved their country like we loved our country. And they were willing to die for it. And they were told, because they knew they weren't going to get off the island alive. They knew that they were giving their life up. Because there were 22,000 Japanese on that island, and the Marines landed 80,000 Marines for their little bitty 8 square miles. So that was my transition.
Pat, tell them about the Japanese soldier that you came upon.
All right. About D+15, we had in this area here, because the 5th Division, I was in the 5th Division, we went up this side of the island, and in this area here was a wide, deep depression that they called Cushman's Pocket. It was heavily, heavily fortified. And when it would come time to take it, the Navy bombarded it, even a tremendous bombardment from the Navy for 2 hours. Then when that lifted, the Air Force came in and they started bombing for another long period of time, and they really gave it a tremendous pounding, so that when the dust settled, that's when we moved in to clean up any of the wounded or dead or not dying. We had to clean the area out so the other troops could move up. And as we're walking down the rubble, they came upon this Japanese soldier. He was buried from here down. He was buried right into the rubble. Only his head and his hands were sticking out. And as I was going by, I see this white, ash-covered face, like, and I'm looking down at it. And in his hands, he had a pair of black rosary beads. And it struck me. It says, here we're killing each other, human beings like myself. That fellow there was somebody's son, or wife, husband, or had family, brother, you know what I mean? And it hit me hard that we were.
How many casualties, Pat, about?
Huh?
How many casualties? How many Marines got killed?
Oh, it was 28,800 and something. When it was supposed to last 3 days, it lasted 36 days. And when they had the total, it was 28,800 and something, 60 something casualty, dead and wounded. And like I said before, it was supposed to be a 3-day operation because we were supposed to get baptized in that mine. I think 3 days is what they thought it was going to brush it right off us. And
How many days were you there, Pat?
36
days.
From D-Day till the end. Now, the question was, why take Iwo Jima? We had to take Iwo Jima because from the Guam, the home base for the B-29 bombers used to go to Tokyo to do the bombing and then return and come back to Guam. They had no base in between. Only Iwo Jima that had 2 airstrips that were operational and 1 was under construction. So the B-29 bombers had no fighter escorts because the United States didn't have a fighter plane that could do that distance and come back. So Iwo Jima had to be taken. When the B-29s brought on that mission, they'd be loaded with bombs. And someone said, why didn't they go around the island? If they went around the island, they'd have to take some of the bombs off, take a smaller load with it. So they had to go over the island. And from that point there, when they went over, the radio stations, the radar, they notified Japan 2 hours in advance.
They were coming.
And when they got there, they were shot up pretty bad. The ones who were able to start home, to come back to Guam, probably didn't, a lot of them were going into the ocean. The damage to the plane was too much, or they ran out of fuel. You know what I mean? There were a number of reasons why they had to ditch. They needed a place like these 2 airstrips. So when the island was secured, before it was secured, it was D+4, the flag went up, and we thought it was over. Then D+5, They secured the first airstrip, and that's when the first B-29 landed. It was crippled. And the name of the plane was Dynamite. And when he landed, they repaired the damage as best they could, refueled the bomber, and he took off, went back to Guam. By the time the war was over, or the campaign was over, there was 25,000 airmen's lives were saved because of this little speck of iron.
Pat, you say D+5, D+15. Tell them what that represents.
D plus any number is D-Day. When we landed was D+1. So as we advanced towards Catalan Point, and after 4 days, D+4. Now, in D+4, I was right about here. Now, the other 28th Marines, that was part of our outfit. When they landed, they turned this way, and they took Mount Suribachi. The rest of the division went that way. We had the west side. D+4, that's where the flag went up. And that's where I was. And as it went up, I actually saw the picture you see of the flag raised in Iwo Jima. I saw it actually at that point when it was taken. And it was a beautiful sight to see. So,
How close were you to that, Pat? The flag was raised down here, was here?
Yeah. The flag was here above Suribachi.
Yeah.
That's 550 feet high. I was at the bottom here, about another 50 feet away from the bottom of the volcano. So I had a very good view. And it was something I always remember.
Had most of the combat stopped at that point?
Oh, no.
No, that's a misnomer.
He started to heat up. Whenever the advances were made, it was made like, say, 100 yards.
Right.
And then at night, I had to come back. We would lose ground. So you'd measure one, maybe 50 yards. And then the next day, you'd go another 50 yards and you have to come back. Because I am so infested with gun emplacements and all those machine gun nests, the gun emplacements, the anti-tank guns. They used everything they had to shoot against us and to take Marines' lives. Just before the landing, when General Karabayashi, he told his men, he made them vow, before they died, they had to take 10 Marines with them. They had to kill 10 Marines before they lost their own life. And so, what was that?
Their general, their leader,
Yeah.
instructed them that.
That's right. Because they knew they weren't going to get off the island alive. Actually, the final count was almost 1,000 prisoners out of the 22,000 on the island who were all underground. When they had bombardments and airstrikes for 72 days before they landed, as the ships come within range of Iwo Jima, they used to fire barrages and bombardment to soften it up. And after 72 days of naval gunfire, combined with air power, dropping bombs and strafing with machine guns and the fighter planes when they used to come in and strafe, it turned out to be 90% noise and 10% effectiveness, because all the troops, all the Japanese, were all on the ground. So give you an idea how difficult it was, you know what a 50-gallon drum is? Well, I was big enough for one of these small Japanese. They weren't very big, but they would bury a 50-gallon drum in the lid. They could lift the lid up from inside, shoot, close the lid, and go down back into the drum. On the other side of the drum was a tunnel. And from that tunnel, they used to go underneath and come out into another drum behind the Marines who were shooting at them. You're trying to clean them out one at a time. So that's the danger we had to, you know, we didn't know that at first, but we learned. You had to protect your back because of the trick that they would use with the method of fighting that they used to do. It was very costly and it was dangerous. The Japanese soldiers were so dedicated to their country. They were really tough soldiers. Like I said, they loved their country like we loved ours. I remember one day, it was up in this area here, right in here. There was what looked like a hill, about the size of a large concert hut. You know what a concert hut is? It's a round metal building. Well, this hill, it looked like, it was shaped like a concert hut, but it was all covered over, camouflaged and everything else. And we discovered that the Marines had trapped a large number, I don't know how many, a large number of Japanese in this bunker. So when they were trapped, they couldn't move in or out. At night, they took it, they blew the hill up. The whole hill rose up, came down with a pile of rubble. In my foxhole, we were surrounded. We had them all surrounded. In the foxhole I was in, it was me and my assistant bazooka man. We shared the foxhole. When that hill was blown up, what flew through the air hit my assistant bazooka man and knocked him right out of the foxhole. His rifle came down and hit me in the head. And that's some of the blood that I shed there. But it was nothing compared to some guys. And in the morning, when he went to the sick bay, we went and I looked over there. And you know, I saw a body, no head. His body from here down to his knees, laying outside the foxhole that had blown out from the mound, the concert hut, you know, blown up. It went through the air and hit him and knocked him clean out of the foxhole. I never seen him since then, because from there he went right into the sick bay to get his wounds taken care of, natural, right? So the reason I mention that is to show the determination they were not to be caught or become prisoners of war. They give up their life.
Pat, can you tell them the size of the foxhole you were in, the average size of the foxhole?
It depended on the size of the bomb crater. Because when you used to dig at the foxhole, you take out a shovel full of sand. It was so fine and like sugar. It would come right back in again. So you had to take advantage of the foxhole that was made by bombs and bomb craters or shells from the Navy guns. And the ideal one, when I was in, I would say was about the size of 4 people, you know, and the width was actually square, almost square. I remember that foxhole especially because we were called, see, because we lost our lieutenant the second day of combat. He got hit by a mortar shell, decapitated him. So we were split up to different outfits and needed help. So we were taken and had guard duty around this command post. They said that there was going to be a counterattack. So we had to dig in. And in that foxhole, I dug in as much as I could, you know, and I took advantage of the crater. And you're taught that when you're in a foxhole, you don't keep your legs together, you keep your legs spread, to kind of spread yourself out, to make yourself thin. So it happened during an advance, snipers were shooting at us, and one of the snipers put a bullet right through the camouflage on my helmet. But the thing is that when it went past my head, it went in between my legs when I was laying down in the foxhole. So I didn't get hit. I was fortunate because I did what I was taught when I was spread out, make yourself thin and small target. Right? What if there's any questions?
Absolutely. Pat, questions for Mr. Femino on the foxhole? Go ahead, because I'm going to relay the question. Go ahead. You can ask.
I just want to know, how long did you serve for?
How long were you in the service, Pat?
3 years. I'm lucky. I was lucky it was in 3 years because of the bomb. When the bomb was dropped on Iwo Jima, I had been drafted into the service. So when that bomb dropped and the Japanese were ready to surrender, they started de-escalating the troops. At that time, when we went back to Hawaii from Iwo Jima, because we were so badly shot up, we had to get replacements. So when I got to Hawaii, they sent me into the hospital because I was having trouble with my feet. And the rest of my division, they got the replacements, and they went back out to Sasebo, Japan, because they had surrendered. And the job of the engineers, I was in 25th engineers, the job they had was to deassemble or take apart the Japanese submarine base there in Sasebo. But I didn't go there because I was in the hospital. When I was in the hospital, the bomb was dropped and I got surveyed out when I got out of the hospital. I never went back to my outfit. And that was the end of my service.
Pat, you were drafted.
I was drafted.
How old were you?
I was 20 years old because I got a deferment because at the time I was doing defense work, government job. And I got a 3-month deferment. And after that time was up, I had to go in. So they drafted me in.
It'll project.
We can pass it around.
Maybe you can do that. Right. That was Dad in uniform and Dad in combat. So I'll start with you.
Other questions for Mr. Femino? Pat, you saw a lot of combat.
I did.
And can you explain to the kids in your words what it was like to be in combat?
All right, I'll do my best. Combat, you see it in documentaries, you see it in movies, with exploding those shells and the trucks pulling them over, and the soldiers being shot up and stuff like that. But there's one element that's missing when you get into combat, especially this island here was a sulfur island, and a little bit of rain and the warm weather. The air smelled like rotten eggs.
Dead bodies.
Dead bodies. And from the carnage, the gunpowder, the diesel oil, that the fuel when it burned. I mean, it was really, really horrible. You weren't comfortable at all. And then,
Now, Pat, when you were sent to Iwo Jima and Sarabata, did you guys know what you were going into? Or did you thought it was gonna be a 3-day walk in the park?
That was supposed to be a 3-day baptism for our division. Now, our division was the most highly trained division to that point, because a very large percentage of the troops were veterans from the previous campaigns. So when their divisions were disbanded, they put them all into the 5th Division. And they were all experienced, not all, a tremendous, of the majority, were combat veterans. I wasn't. I was down at boot camp, and I had 11 months of training before we went into combat. But that was supposed to be a 3-day operation, and then we were supposed to go take Okinawa. But that didn't happen. And there was too much, casualties were too high. What was 3 days expected ended up as 36 days. And it was constant fighting. I would say right up until 2 days before we left the island. Now, on the 2nd day before we left the island, at the bottom of the airstrip, number 1, right down here, the Army Air Force of the fighter wing, because the fighter planes landed on there. The P-51 fighters was our best fighter at that time, was the escort for the B-29s. And at that point, things started to turn around into our favor. Well, these fellas, when they built their tents at the bottom of the airstrip, they made the mistake of digging a foxhole in the center of the tent, which is a no-no, because on the 2nd to the last day, 300 Japanese came out of the caves in a desperate attempt with a banzai attack to kill and try to retake the ground that they had lost and the airstrip, take control of it. But they were unsuccessful, because the firepower that the Marines had that time was far greater, and the equipment that we had at that time was far better than they had left. They were kind of spent. It was in desperation, and General Karabayashi didn't like the idea of banzai attacks, because they always got the worst end of it. On T+3, before the flag went up, right here, you see this little, this area here, out here, offshore, there were large rocks that are at water level. But those large rocks were all hewed out. They had troops in there. And on the night of T+3, the spotters discovered that there were boats, 8 wooden boats, because they didn't have Higgins boats. They had the regular, when they landed, they used to jump off the side of the boats. So that night they heard, or got the word from the headquarters, there was going to be a counterattack. This was a little bit of a cove like that they could land in. So I could hear the radio man and the command post relaying orders like A Company, swing down so many degrees north. C Company, bigger company. We got in places like a honeycomb. Right around here. It's like a honeycomb. At the given point, the Marines let go a barrage of mortar shells. The illumination, you know, the luminous flares, and when they had covered the sky with it, it was like daylight. You could see everything, and the Marines opened up. As soon as they landed on the shore, the Marines opened up, killed every one of them. And when the operation was over, in my place where I was, there was a Japanese truck went by, loaded with dead Japanese so much so that the blood was running off the back of the truck. And you see that, you say, it is very eye-opening.
Another question for Mr. Femino. Pat, when kids do a presentation, they usually have note cards or
Yes.
paper. You're doing it from memory. At 95 years old, you remember, it stayed with you.
You know what happens with me is when I start talking about a subject, another thought comes into my mind. So, well, I got to say this or I got to say that, and I get confused. That's why sometimes I lose my train of thought. You know what I mean? But there's so many things that went on.
Where did you grow up, Pat?
Please,
Where did you grow up?
Providence,
You were from
Rhode Island.
So you're a native Rhode Island.
Oh yes, yes. Then when I got married, we moved to North Providence. I lived there most of my life. And then after North Providence, we came to North Smithfield, to St. Antoine's, the villa of St. Antoine. I'm in his assisted living now. My daughter and my other children, I have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls, God bless them. They take good care of us. I have no worries. My wife is in the nursing home. She's been there almost 4 years now. So I get to see her every day because the children, of course, they make a schedule. So we come up to the villa every day. And I get to go and see my wife every day. And there's a lot of others that have no family.
I'd like to ask you a question, Pat. Is all that you went through in the service with combat, you were drafted. Would you serve again if you were an 18, 20-year-old?
If my country was in trouble, if there was a threat of war, yes, I would. I would be happy about it, but I would. Because, you know, the Japanese people, for example, even the other enemies, like the Germans and the Russians and all that, they were indoctrinated that when the Marines fought against the Japanese, they were told that you don't want to get captured because we are monsters, we torture them, and they'll never come out alive, and that in other words, we were the real bad guys, right? Now, when we got trained in going into combat, we were just told that they were vicious fighters and they were very difficult to see because the camouflage that they had, the time they had to prepare, like each island that they conquered, they used to they had their bases. They used to dig in. They were never up on top, like, you know, they were always underground. And then when the opportunity arose, they'd pop out, knock off unexpected Marines, and then go back to the ground again. So now, the United States, one of the weapons we had was napalm from the flamethrowers. And the flamethrowers used to burn real hot. And when they came upon a sniper of these drums that I was talking about, they would just soak them with napalm and then burn it for a long time. And that kind of neutralized that point, and they go on. See, the Marines, the way the Marines fought, it used to be hit and run. They used to, if they came across an obstacle in their path, they would knock it or neutralize it, and then pass it. Now, after they pass it, the other Japanese would come back behind them, and when they returned to get back to their base or their staging area, the Japs were right there waiting for them and used to pick them off. That's why it was so difficult. They were very hard fighters, and they were very loyal to their country. They loved their country like we did.
Tell the students what you gave me today. Give me that.
Today, I was given a picture of the flag racing of Iwo Jima in gold. And just quite a while ago, when I'm down in Newport, Middletown, I gave a talk, and the class there gave me this picture. Do they see it?
I have it in my class.
Oh, okay, it's there already. It's a gold picture embossed of the flag raising of Iwo Jima. It was something I really cherished. I liked it very much. But I don't know how to say this, but I wanted to show my appreciation to Mr. Kalenda and the people that you listened to me, and I hope it was informative in some ways, and I gave it to Mr. Kalenda.
I think it went in the display case already. I had a girl put in the display case. And none of those, the guys that pushed the flag up, I don't believe any of them, I think the last one died.
That's right.
I don't think any of them.
And he was the Navy corpsman.
The last
The
one.
last one to be alive. His name was Stewart. Yeah.
And you remember it, Pat?
Oh, I do. I remember it. Oh, God, yes. You know, I can't tell you a story. The man that took that picture, the flag raising of Iwo Jima, his name was Rosenthal, Joe Rosenthal. And he just happened to be on the same ship that I was, going across from Saipan and Tai and Guam into the combat area. So we got on board ship. Through my learning of how to live in the military life, I got to the compartment that we were assigned. I got in there early. And at the bottom of the gangplank, the bunks, they had 4 bunks, one on top of the other, the compartments. And I got the bunk right inside the doorway on the bottom, because that's where the fresh air comes into the compartment and you get good circulation. I got all set up nice, and I was really ready for a good trip to enjoy it and be comfortable. So when the compartment was almost full, this fellow come down the stairway, you know, he's got cameras hanging on his neck. He's got his pack in his back, you know. And he looked at me. I was sitting on my bunk. And he looked at me. He says, "Hey, you sure in my bunk?" I go, "Oh no," I said, they tell us that when we get here, you pick a bunk, get situated. That's my bunk. So hey, I couldn't argue with him. He had 3 stripes up and 3 stripes underneath. He was a first sergeant. That's the uniform he had. That's what they gave him. Because he was a civilian combat photographer. So he says to me, he says, "That's my bunk," he says. I said, "Man, I was here first. I mean, you know." He said, "That's my bunk," he says. "Get out of there, you know." So, hey, I'm only a PFC with 1 stripe. So I wasn't going to argue with the sergeant, first sergeant at that. So I got up and I had to give up my bunk, and I had to take one in the compartment. Fill the back with it. There's very little ventilation. But I never forgot him. After the flag went up, and all the hype about the flag raising and the bonds raising campaign they had, that photograph brought in more money in bond sales during the war than any other photograph that they had taken. So, and anytime I used to see a picture of him, Joe Rosenthal took this picture. I said, "Yeah, he took my bunk too."
How many people can say, Pat, that are still alive,
Yes.
that the guy that took the most famous, iconic pic, he took your bunk,
Yes. Yes.
and you knew him, and you met him?
you gotta love him. I mean, you gotta look at the guy's thing. You can't fight the stripes. I mean,
Pat, after your, how were you discharged? You came back to the States.
when I came back to the States, they brought me into California.
Like on the West Coast.
Yeah. You know, I can't think of the name of the base on that.
No, it's,
Huh?
I can't think.
On the West Coast, what's the name of that base?
Pendleton's on
Santa or what?
I can't think of it, Jack.
Oh my God. I do it like my own name.
And from California?
Yeah, it was the Marine base on West Coast in Santa Ana. It was on the
It's not Pendleton on the West Coast?
29 Palms?
Well, anyway, that's what they brought me. From there, they put me on a plane and flew me across the country. The C-30 combat cargo plane, where they had a row of chairs along each side of the fuselage, and that's where you sat. And they brought me across to Boston, Logan. From Logan, they put us on buses and brought us up to the Portsmouth Naval Yard, the Navy base there. That's where they kept all the German boats that were captured, and the German sailors. And it was from there when I was discharged. Because while I was there, the bomb was dropped. That day was kind of the end of the war, when the bomb dropped.
Just tell me, the last question. When the flag raised, what day was it?
What day was it?
Yeah, it was D-Day plus
The +4.
4.
Yeah. And, D+5, the first airstrip was actually, the Marines took it. But there's still, at one end of the airstrip, there was still fighting going on with the B-29 came down, dynamite, the first one. So that's how close that was, you know what I mean, and how close they came, because they had never made it back to Guam. So each plane was about 10 men. And the only protection they had was the aerial guns, the belly guns, the tail guns, and the nose guns. The machine guns, that's the only protection that the B-29s had. So they really needed the escort P-51s. Then they put another wing of planes. It was the P-64 Black Widow. It was all black. It was a night fighter. It was all set up and manufactured to be a night fighter. They used to fly by instruments. And they were very, very effective against the Japanese Zero. So once we got that out, it was really
The combat at Iwo Jima, more day or at night?
constant day and night. Day and night. Because at night, you had to worry about, that's what they did the most. They come out of the foxholes and they'd steal our canteens. They needed water so bad. Their water was like sulfur water. Like when the engineers, what they call it, was like a giant swimming pool in the backyard. And they used to take the ocean water and put it through a machine that the engineers had. And they'd take the salt out of the water and put it, they pump that water into this.
Was it good, Pat?
And they treated it with the chloride and all that. And that's what we used to drink. And it was very, very good compared to what those guys had to drink. They had a lot of dysentery, a lot of sickness, and they come out at night, and that's when it was dangerous. That's why in every foxhole, there had to be 2 Marines. One would sleep and the other would stay awake, and they shared the shift. Otherwise, they found like, if they came out undetected, they would slit their throats, steal it, ammunition, and the water, because they need the water back. And, they're really in bad shape.
Now you're gonna get invited to this Reach Across America ceremony
Look,
in
I
December.
look forward to it.
Yeah.
I look forward, that's nice.
Tell the students why is that important to a veteran like yourself?
I'll tell you, it's a sign of respect. The effort people put into, get these wreaths, and they take them, they make a number of stops. For what? Maine,
Me?
all the way down to here, and other places, all the way to Arlington Cemetery. At Arlington Cemetery, they have these, enough wreaths, I guess. They put a wreath on every cross. And the, at Arlington. Incidentally, the name just come to me. The camp was Camp Pendleton in California. I don't know how I
You
feel.
feel better now you got Camp Pendleton. You feel better now you got Camp Pendleton.
Yeah. But anyway, is there anything else I want to know?
Any other questions, Mr. Femino, before we let him sit down and have a drink of water? 95 years old, Iwo Jima survivor. Pat, thank you. It was a pleasure.